Now, since the new update, winning on MyGM on the hardest difficulty is actually really difficult. So today I'm going to try and put you in a position to make sure that you are victorious at Wrestlemania. As long as your game doesn't crash on your way there, because I hear that happens quite often. And we're going to start looking at the draft to begin with. But before you click off, trust me, this is arguably the most important part of the MyGM mode until you get to the final 5 weeks. Now, I know that you want to have the best wrestlers, the John Cena's, the Roman Reigns. However, they do cost the most money because they are the highest popularity superstars with obviously the highest star rating. And that is great. A Roman Reigns, if you can add in and forward to your roster, would be fantastic. However, I do implore, if you can resist, to try and go for the bottom half of the very first page. The likes of King Nakamura here or a Kevin Owens, matching those two up would be perfect. You save yourself nearly about 100k if you were to go for John Cena, Roman Reigns, or you go for Kevin Owens and King Nakamura instead, and you would be in better position going forward than what you would if you just splashed all your cash. So yes, my first pick is going to be Kevin Owens. He is a babyface bruiser. Now I need to match him up with a heel fighter. And what I do suggest doing is exactly this. Find yourself a pair which will match up perfectly for a perfect start-off rivalry with some of the highest popularity superstars that you've got. Then do it for the women's side as well. So for instance, if I were to go a little bit further down, we have Shayna Baszler, who's a bruiser. Carmella is a fighter, still at 57 popularity with a very good stamina. So I actually quite like the look of that. Let's go with Carmella as a heel fighter. Then we need to find ourselves a babyface bruiser. So on the women's section as well, there are a few, for instance, like Rhea Ripley. But if I went down a little bit further, is there anybody that I can save some money on that actually isn't here? Unless I went all the way down to Dana Brooke. So I'm kind of restricting myself to a little bit further up. So let's go with Rhea Ripley, or in fact, Bianca Belair is only a little bit more costing, about $8,000 more, but she has a higher stamina and one extra for the popularity. So let's go with Bianca Belair. Now, as a little tip, what I like to do to defeat the hard mode is to then go for a reasonably good specialist on each side, on the male and the female roster, so that they can match up with another high popularity superstar should you need them to. So Bayley's up there, but she's still over $200,000. Who is the next specialist that we have here? All the way down, it's Toni Storm at 48. That's quite low considering, so maybe I would have to go for somebody like Bayley. She does have a high stamina, for instance, which is not too bad. Hopefully on the men's side of things, we can actually save a little bit more cash going with a lower popularity superstar in the specialist department. Riddle's there, which is a really good option for 87 stamina, plus he's still at 57 for popularity, and he's only going to cost us 200. Is there anybody else? Montez Ford, more of a tag team. We'll get to that in a sec. Yeah, a little bit lower is too low in my opinion. So let's go with Riddle there. He still has a good popularity, very good stamina. Now my next suggestion is to go down to the bottom of the draft pick and try and find yourselves a tag team, an actual tag team in the game, because then you know that they actually work well together and they will put on better matches because they work well together. So for instance, we could go for Tyler Bate and Trent Seven there. They are both matching up quite well. Or if you go a little bit further up, there are some other options that I could go for, including Eric and Ivar. And these two, you find that the AI always go for because they're both really good. Hopefully they don't go for Eric right now. No, they go for R-Truth. That's good. So now we can then go for Eric. We'll scroll all the way down, get ourselves Eric, who does have a decent enough popularity, and he matches up perfectly with Ivar as a tag team. And it goes without saying, but if you can also do that for the women's roster, especially if you get down the bottom and you find a couple there, for instance, perfectly Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, that's absolutely spot on in my opinion, so I think I'm actually going to go for that. Of course, the women's tag team wrestling being in there now with the title belts, absolutely fantastic. Now, if I'm looking at my roster breakdown in the bottom corner, there's a couple of classes that I don't necessarily have filled very well, including the Giant and the cruiser. I've only got one giant, and I've got no cruisers across any department. Now, I always feel like on the women's side of things, it's really good to go for Raquel Gonzalez is perfect. She's absolutely spot on there as a giant, so that's a good pickup to begin with. And maybe they'll match up quite well with a cruiser down here. Liv Morgan's a really good one, $159,000. That's perfect as well. And that's given me $500,000 left, and we have 12 wrestlers in our roster right now. I always suggest that the minimum that you get is 15, because you kind of need it for a full match card, as well as obviously just in case somebody gets injured to begin with and you don't have a lot of money. This is the reason why I'm suggesting go down the bottom and start there. So now what I'm looking at is I do only have one cruiser, so I might go on the men's side of things, try and find another giant cruiser combination. I think to be fair, Mustafa Ali and Keith Lee is there. Is there anybody cheaper who's a giant down the bottom? Amos is normally really good. I could really go for Whacking Wild and match him up with a specialist. That's always another option that you could go for. And I think I might go for that, to be fair. But I might go for Mansoor, who's possibly a little bit better option than Whacking Wild, for the fact that he has a lot higher stamina and 5 extra for popularity. And I can match him up really well with Alexander Wolf, not to mention that Alexander Wolf obviously has 2 other wrestlers or 3 in fact, in the game database in the draft pool, not in this draft, that I could find in the free agency that will match up perfectly as a tag team. So again, we've got just short of 300,000 there. I have 7 and 7 for male and female, which is fantastic. Let's try and get one more of each. That would be perfect, because like I say, we need a minimum of 15, so 16 would be spot on, but don't worry about popularity. We're going to be focusing on popularity at another point. So if we take a look then, ideally, we'll go for a specialist. I think that's really good. And in fact, Fabian Eichner's there, and we have Alexander Wolf. So that to me is a perfect pickup, having Fabian Eichner and Alexander Wolf. What a perfect tag team that we can then put together. And on the female side of things, we do have a couple of specialists down the bottom. However, I'm very aware I only have $127,000 left. If I did pick one of these, it'd only be able to be Indy Hartwell. I wouldn't be able to put on a show. But for now, we've got our 15. That's the minimum requirement that I think we need to put on the first couple of shows. You might have to go down to 14 if you do splash a little bit too much cash, but that's why I always suggest start down the bottom. But now, on to the next part, we need to book our first show. Oh, and by the way, I would suggest, my preference of the brand and the GM that you use. Obviously, everybody has their favorites. My favorite, I tend to go for Adam Pearce for the Instigator card, or for William Regal for that Legend card. That's down to you. Those are the two that I think are the best for value. And the best value for me is SmackDown. That Birth of Legends card for that popularity. That's the reason why we go for lower popularity superstars to begin with. If you get that card, it helps really well. Although the Raw one isn't that bad. Now, the first match card is really important because it sets you up for your first pay-per-view. And then going forward, obviously, you kind of need to have a plan in your mind where you're going to go. What short-term rivalries you're going to have. What long-term rivalries are you going to have? And the drama curve that you have for your week 1 is that you need to have a high opener and a high main event. The two in the middle, you need to have a worse match than the opener and the main event. So, in my opinion, if you're going to do that, I would have 2 title matches like I do right here. So I've got Kevin Owens and King Nakamura in a title match, Extreme Rules as well, because that's arguably a better match than just a normal. And I have a tables match, which is not as good as Extreme Rules, but still decent, in Bianca Belair and Carmella. Those are the 2 first rivalries that I want to make for the short term and hopefully the first pay-per-view, unless I want to prolong one for the second pay-per-view. And in the middle, what I'm basically doing is making sure I am using classes that I haven't used in the main or the opener. For instance, Raquel Gonzalez versus Liv Morgan is a giant and a cruiser. And in the tag team, because you need to have a tag team in every single event, then I've gone for Ivar and Eric, who again, giant bruiser against 2 specialists. So the middle matches, I would always say on your week 1, get your tag team rivalry sorted. Unless your tag team rivalry includes one of your highest popularity wrestlers, then stick them in the main or the opener, especially like I'm risking slightly here. Eric and Ivar plus Alexander Wolf and Fabian Eichner, they're both good tag team wrestlers as an actual team. So they might actually put on a really good match because they match up really well and they have good chemistry with their partners. In the promo section, this is where you start rivalries or boost your popularity for your less popularity superstars. So your less popular superstars. Now here, I'm actually going to do a role change with Bayley for the simple reason that because of the amount of people that we have managed to draft, we don't have enough baby faces on each side of things. So what I am going to do is role change Bayley so that she is now a babyface. Then I can match her up with Liv Morgan and tag against Raquel Gonzalez and somebody else to have a women's tag team rivalry that will go on opposite to the male tag team rivalry. Because right now we don't have enough money to buy any other wrestlers to sort that out. Also, try and have variety between your promos. For instance, here I've got a role change, a call out, and a charity. The Riddle is calling out Mansoor. Riddle's good on the mic. Yes, Mansoor is a babyface right now, but if I give him a role change next week, adds variety, and then that rivalry can actually grow from that. Not to mention as well, because Riddle has a better popularity than Mansoor, working with Riddle, Mansoor's popularity will grow. Ideally, what you want to have is 2 sets of rivalries so that you can switch out each time. So you've always got rivalries on your match card, but your wrestlers aren't getting too tired wrestling every single week. Again, adds variety, and again, it gives you a little bit of stamina boost each time instead of working your wrestlers into the ground and ultimately getting loads of injuries. Now, the reason you want to put your most popular superstars on your first match card is because the match ratings are set really, or are kind of influenced by the popularity. So for instance here, that's a great match. All it was a tables match between the 2 wrestlers. They didn't even have a rivalry. So that is a great start from us. That's a fantastic opener. It's an okay promo change, but it's variety again. These are the less popular superstars. We're hoping that they put on not as good as a match, but they do match up quite well. So Liv Morgan there, that's a good, but it's only a mediocre match. For instance, 2-star. If you did have some more popular superstars, then we could have put them in just a call-out segment like this one. So that's a new rivalry now. Obviously, the tag team that I mentioned could be a risk because I've matched them up really well and I've got 2 legitimate tag teams. This could be... No, it's okay. It's an okay match. Doesn't start a rivalry though. We got a charity promo, which obviously gives you 5,000 fans each and every time. So that's really good no matter whether they are good or bad on the mic. So if they are terrible on the mic, why not use them on the mic? Then, of course, the main event, we're hoping that this is a barn burner as well. It's King Nakamura, Kevin Owens. They match up perfectly, and it's for the title, and it's an Extreme Rules match. The drama curve works perfectly there. We've gone up, we've come down, and our main event has peaked at the 3.5-star, plus it started a new rivalry. And if you look what the actual AI has done in the first week, they've done something very similar. They've put their tag team opener, but it's actually quite a good match. They've got a fairly decent mid-card tag team rivalry there. That will obviously start doing really well because of the popular superstars in that match. And they've gone for a big-time main event with John Cena. And on this page, you can exactly see the drama curve. So, for instance, in that opener there, 3.5-star, that is a peak point. We dip down into the first mid-card. The second mid-card is when you want to start coming back up. And the main event is where you want to have the ultimate peak. Ideally, that would have been a 4-star, but 3.5-star is still good enough because it was the highest rated match on the card. And I think we've done quite well to book this show. So as we can see, we've gained 88,000 fans. But if you take a look at the show notes, always keep an eye on this. Ivar and Eric worked really well as a tag team. We know that was going to be the case. Carmella has a great feel for tables matches. That means she's going to be putting on better tables matches than anybody else on the card who doesn't have that. Raw still beat us though. They managed to get an extra 1,000 fans. That's just sometimes the way it goes. I've mentioned variety a few times and it is really important. As you can see, my second match week here, no matches are identical. We've got a singles main event, which is an Extreme Rules match. We've got a singles opener as a tables match, but they're male and female, so they're already different anyway. We got a mid-card singles normal match, but a mid-card tag team match, which is also a title match, so those two are different as well. And again, make sure your best matches are the opener, the main event. The same with the promos as well. I've done 3 different promo types here. Always make sure you're doing at least 2 different promo types. Self-promo and charity are probably the way to go. Never really use advertisement because you can gain money through the venue, which I'll talk about later on. Adding run-ins to your matches as well is a good way of starting new rivalries. But not only that, it's a good way of preventing rivalries. So for instance, if you're matching up two wrestlers because you have nobody else, but you don't really want them to actually start a rivalry, chuck in a run-in. That will obviously help, especially in tag teams when you have an idea going on in your head that you want to plan for the future. Now on to your first pay-per-view. This is going to be a test for you. Hopefully you have a couple of 3 and 4 level rivalries that you can obviously pay off at this one, and hopefully you've got a couple of level 1s and 2s that you can add to the mid card to boost for the following pay-per-view for them to be your level 4s or 3s. Now the curve that we mentioned in the first week is a little different to a normal match card in a pay-per-view. Your peak is still got to be your opener and your main, but the lowest point has to be the middle of the card. So the mid-card matches on either side of the middle, they have to be slightly better than the middle mid-card, but not as good as the opener or the main event. It's a little tricky to try and work out, but that is the hardest part of hard mode. And also be clever with your cards. If you could afford to buy a tables card, for instance, or an Extreme Rules match card to boost the obviously whatever match you have there, put that in your main event. It makes sense because you know that's going to be a better match. Not to mention as well, if you have two wrestlers who are really good at something, I have Kevin Owens and King Nakamura who are both really good at tables matches, plus it's a pay-per-view bonus, I'm sticking that in the opener. I might even pop it in the main card instead of the Extreme Rules match that I originally had, because not only do they get a pay-per-view bonus, but they're both really good at that match, meaning that that match should be better than this one. Both of them are around a 3 or a level 4 rivalry as well, so the big payoff is going to be the main event. And as you can see here, I'm predicting that the Riddle Mansoor match, because of popularity reasons, is going to be the least popular match there. For instance, we've got Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez who match up perfectly, so just a normal match there should be better than Riddle Mansoor. It might not be, but I'm taking a gamble there. And our mid-card tables tag team title match, I think that should be better than the other two, so I'm putting that in the sub-main event. Now, the promos. I've gone for a self-promo on Billie Kay, charity for Bayley, self-promo on Peyton Royce, so you can see that there's variety there, and I've also hired a jobber. Now, the jobbers are really important when you don't have a lot of money at the beginning, like I don't. Now, Ella Rubor is not very good on the mic either, so just doing a charity promo is not going to harm anybody, and what I actually might do is switch, no, there's no point in switching them around, this is absolutely fine, but to boost their popularity, putting them in a tag team rivalry is going to help. Now, my plans for that is she is a babyface specialist. I can put her up against Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. I'm boosting their popularity as well as Bayley. And then that tag team rivalry will hopefully boost the popularity of everybody, including Ella. Also, in doing this promo right here, I gain a commissioner goal, and this one is always one to look out for. Special promotion. Ensures that you'll retain most of your fans this week. There's this one and the network special. If you see that in your commissioner goals, go for it. Because they actually give you way more fans than what you would hope. Now, there are some controversy whether to use it the week after a pay-per-view or actually at the pay-per-view. I like to use it at a pay-per-view, but a lot of people in the comments have told me to use it the week after. I don't think there's anybody who's tested it and actually knows the real answer. Now, I'm going to skip on forward to show logistics because this is a great example here at our first pay-per-view. The bonuses that you can get, optional bonuses that you can see here. Now, I haven't done one of them here because I'm going to show you what I mean. Now, I've gone through and each and every week I've made sure that the optional bonuses apply, because if you take a look down the bottom there, the optional bonuses are book 2, level 2 or higher rivalries, you get a reward for that. You book 2 superstars with over 2 star power, gain 1 extra popularity, and the show quality itself plus 9%. If I went down, if I actually had the ability to unlock the big stadium, this would increase. They would gain 2 popularity and the show quality would be 11% instead of the 9. But if I had the option to go for the big open stadium, I would not get that optional goal because I am not matching the book 2, level 4 or higher rivalries during a pay-per-view show. I don't have that right now, so I wouldn't get the reward of book superstars with plus 2 star power, gain plus 2 popularity and the show quality. However, I do have other ones here where I could go higher, I just can't afford to. You have to weigh that up as well. And on this one here, I could go even higher as well. Again, I can't afford to, but I can go for this one. The booking cost, I've actually used a card, so I don't have to pay for it, but I still have to pay to unlock it, so I can't use that one. The viral campaign, again, if I had the ability to unlock this one, I wouldn't be able to go for it. But if I did not have this optional goal here, but this one was ticked, I'd go for that one, because the optional bonus is there. I would gain a show quality higher than what I would just booking this one without the bonus, because you still get a show quality of plus 6%, but if you get the bonus of plus 4% and 5%, that's 9%, that's higher than 6. I hope you understand that. It sometimes can be a little complicated, and it just requires sometimes a little bit of mathematics, and sometimes that's not my strong point either. The only time that I would suggest to ignore the optional bonuses, however, is on the venue when you are struggling for money. For the simple reason that once you start using the bottom 3 here, you'll notice a lot of money coming in the door, especially if you start booking a big open stadium. So if you have the ability to use these two, but you don't get an optional bonus, weigh it up. Do I need the money more? Do I need to show quality more? If you have way more money in your budget than what you're needing every single week, go for show quality and go for a bonus. I would suggest not going down to this level though, the concert hall. Try and stick around at least the Capital Wrestling Center or the whatever it is. I think it's the Thunderdome. But if you are struggling for money like I am right now, which you should be at your first pay-per-view, once you have the ability to book these 3 down the bottom, start using them. So this is our first pay-per-view then. I actually think it went quite well, other than obviously Raw having a better main event, but I'm not too worried about that. In fact, it actually went perfectly for what I was planning. As you can see, the opener is a 4.5 out of 5. Absolutely fantastic. The mid-card, second mid-card, was a 3-star. The drama curve comes down, all the way down to a 2.5 star, which is absolutely fine, because then we went straight up to a 4-star into a 4.5 main event. That to me is a perfect pay-per-view drama curve. Obviously, if we could all bump them up to 5, it would be great. It's just not physically possible, especially on your first pay-per-view. Maybe at a WrestleMania if you've planned it really well. But we can see that the opposing brand, Raw, they mucked it up a little bit, because their middle mid-card match was a 3.5 star, which was better than their first mid-card match, and it matched the opener. Sometimes you don't want that to happen. They did have a great main event though, which was a women's tag team tables match. I warned you about that match already. And that sees us take home 228,000 fans there, and we gained $151,000. Eric and Ivar are both good at tables matches, so we need to keep that in consideration going forward. We are ranked number 1. We get the special promotion. Let's take a look. They gained only 185,000. So that's what, nearly 40,000 less than what we managed to gain. Plus they lost money and they're struggling for cash. We are definitely in the driving seat. If you take a look right now, we're winning by nearly 60,000 fans. Now let's take a look at the power cards, because they can be make or break, and they can definitely win you a MyGM mode. If you have a lot of cash, which right now I don't, but after the next pay-per-view I might, I would start buying all of these cards. Only 15,000 for these two, 50,000 for injury rehab, but that means that whatever week 3 injury I get, it just gets wiped straight away, so I'm able to use that wrestler, probably just for a promo, because they might have really low stamina, but I would definitely suggest using those cards. Also, if you have like a Veto Random Star or a Veto Champ, it's always best to use that before a pay-per-view. Disrupt the pay-per-view for your opposing brand. So that is on week 4 or week 9, 14, 19, 24, 29, you get the picture. That will then obviously mean that they cannot use whatever wrestler gets selected for that pay-per-view. It might ruin a rivalry, it will then put their match quality down, and you'll get more fans. And always check the commissioner goal, because like I've shown you there, the special promotion was absolutely perfect for us to get. But this one's a good one too. If I book my least popular available star for a match this week, I get a health span of level 3, and that means that whoever I sideline for a week will get a huge boost in stamina, 18 or more, because they obviously gain stamina for not being used on the next week, so then they can actually wrestle and not be in a risk of having an injury. So if I took a look at my lowest popularity superstar right now, that is going to be Ella Robo. So I need to start that tag team rivalry. So if I was to do that, I mentioned putting her alongside Bayley against Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. I'll make that a title match, and I'll probably stick that in the second to main mid-card because the people around her do have a good popularity. It will help boost her popularity going forward, as well as I've now met the commissioner goal. Now, if you put all of that in and you finally get to your second to last pay-per-view, this is arguably just as important as your WrestleMania, because this then sets up your WrestleMania, which has to be the biggest grand stage of them all. And by now you should have a plan of all your rivalries going into this pay-per-view, whether you have a couple of level 2s for WrestleMania or you're paying off a couple of big ones, knowing that you need to use them the next week to start a rivalry for WrestleMania, because you've only got 5 weeks to get that to a level 3 or a 4. And that's why I kind of like the instigator card. I'll keep it right to the very end of WrestleMania and then activate that card so all of my rivalries go to the next level. Not to mention as well, if you can find yourself on the store a fixed match card, it will help you in your second to last pay-per-view pick whoever you want to be winning the championship, so that your rivalry that you start after that pay-per-view for WrestleMania, you can actually do that without them not having the title belt, and it makes it a little bit complicated. Now it's WrestleMania time, and you obviously want to be putting all of your titles on the line, if possible, in big rivalries. And that's why I said to set up the rivalries at the pay-per-view just before that, even probably have a plan before you get to that pay-per-view. So you know level 2 rivalries at that pay-per-view can then be level 4 rivalries at WrestleMania. And ideally you kind of want to have 4 level rivalries going into WrestleMania. That will put on the best show. If you manage to find power cards for special matches, pop them in the opener or the main event. And of course, if you have more than just the 2, then select it on the 2 mid-card matches outside of the middle match for that drama curve. And again, you want to be adding to that drama curve. Have your opener and your main event be the best match it can possibly be. And those special matches can be Hell in a Cell. If you've got a level 4 rivalry with a Hell in a Cell, sometimes it will blow the roof off the place and give you a 5-star legendary match. But of course, the special match cards can obviously put Extreme Rules, tables matches to a level 5 too. It's definitely possible. So you need to be careful when booking your WrestleMania. I would say my biggest tip for WrestleMania though is on the Legends section. Now, I'm only on week 6 here, so all of these are really expensive. But when you get closer to the end, they become really, really cheap. Now, if you go to your show logistics and you look at the advertisement, if you take a look at the optional bonuses, even on commercial campaign here, book 2 superstars with a plus 65 popularity or over on different promo types, and you get a very good reward of book superstars with plus 3-star power gain, plus 2 popularity. So maybe even do this for the weeks leading up to WrestleMania. But you get a show quality of plus 11, additional to the show quality of plus 10 just putting on the commercial campaign to begin with. So that's a show quality of an additional 21%. If you go even further, you can get even more, 25%, but you need to have 2 superstars above 70 popularity. So maybe if on the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, you have enough money to sign 3 or 4 legends who are really, really cheap, but are really good on the mic. So for instance, Stone Cold is a great option. He's 5-star on the mic. Give him a self promo because they will go through the roof. And with his 69 popularity, Hogan's 69 popularity on 2 self promos, it will fly above the 70s. And then you can take a look at the show logistics at WrestleMania, stick them both on a self promo and a charity, for instance, so it's 2 different promo types. You get 25% show quality, and your show at WrestleMania will definitely benefit from this. But there we have it. That's all of my tips and tricks for trying to beat the MyGM mode on the hardest difficulty. It will still be difficult because planning things and injuries and stamina is always going to be tricky. But if you put all of those things that I've given you then and implement them, you won't be far off from winning when you get to WrestleMania. So best of luck. Let me know how you do down in the comment section, even if you can't get to WrestleMania. I feel sorry for you. I really hope they bring out a patch. If you did enjoy this video and you found it really useful, then please share it with some friends or drop a like on it. That would be absolutely fantastic. And I'll see you this week for another MyGM challenge. Bye.